This is the new Cintiq 16. It's a new budget price display from Wacom, and today I'm gonna be reviewing it. This device was provided to me by the folks over at Wacom, but this is not a sponsored video, so the opinions contained herein are my own. So what is this? It is a pen display. Basically, it's an external monitor that connects to your computer, Windows or Mac, and you can draw on it using the included pen. What's new here? Well, Wacom already has the Cintiq Pro line. There's the Cintiq Pro 13, the Pro 16, the Pro 24, the Pro 32. This is the Cintiq 16. Notice here the lack of the word Pro. Wacom has always done these high-end pen displays. They specialize in producing the best of the best. The quality and the features they're going for are usually cut above the rest. So over the last couple years, there's been a lot of competition, and that competition has really improved. And so you have all of these companies releasing cheaper pen displays. So what Wacom is doing here is they're taking out some of those features that drive up the price of the Cintiq Pro line and releasing a more stripped-down basic version. Sometimes taking something away can be a good thing. Nice. And sometimes taking something away can be a bad thing.
Hey, I needed that.
So what are the trade-offs? What have they done to bring the price down? Well, let's take a look at the Cintiq 16 I have here and compare it to the Cintiq Pro 16. The biggest difference here is the screen itself. The resolution on the Cintiq 16 is 1920 by 1080. That's full HD. The Pro, however, is 4K. That's 3,840 pixels by 2,160 pixels. So the Pro has twice as many pixels, and so you're gonna get a crisper image. The Pro also has a laminated display. Wacom calls this optical bonding. Basically, what it does is it reduces the amount of space between the glass that your pen is actually hitting and drawing on and the screen that's underneath it. Since there is more space here, what you're seeing is an effect that many people refer to as parallax. That is the space between where your pen is and where the cursor appears on the screen. And that is one of the really big benefits of jumping up to the Pro line over something like this. Also, the texture they put on this screen is a film. On the Pros, it's etched glass, and that etched glass goes edge to edge. Now, when you list them out like this, these do sound like big trade-offs. But in terms of specs, every other 16-inch pen display that's available now at the time that I'm doing this review currently pretty much has the same exact specifications. So why get this? Why go with a Wacom? For me, the most compelling reason is this. This is Wacom's Pro Pen 2. I've used the Pro Pen 2 before on the Cintiq Pro 24. I've used it on the newest Intuos tablets. And it's kind of hard to put into words how good the pen feels and how I feel about this. I really like it. I think Wacom is my personal gold standard for what a stylus should feel like when you're drawing with it. But it is kind of hard to put those feelings into words. So like all pen displays, I do put it through a bunch of tests to kind of get a feel for what it's doing and how that pen behaves when you're drawing with it. And this really works flawlessly. As soon as I put it down on the screen, it really feels natural. Slow angled lines, they're perfect. There's no fiddling, there's no stroke smoothing that you need to add to it. It's exactly the way I want the lines to look and feel when I'm drawing. Slow lines, fast lines, keeping a consistent pressure, it's all there. The pressure curve feels very natural. In the illustration I'm doing in the background, when I'm coloring in, I'm using a really wide brush. I increase the size of that brush. And then what I could do is I can use really light pressure to go in there and fill in some of the really narrow, tighter spaces. And that's a little thing, and I think a lot of other drawing tablets do that fairly well, but this just feels good. It responds exactly the way I want it to. Now, the biggest difference between this and the Cintiq Pro is that parallax I mentioned a little bit earlier. From time to time, when I would pick up this pen and I would finish an ink line where I left off, it's much easier to do that on the Cintiq Pros because it has that bonded screen. There's less space. I'm not saying it's super hard to line up your lines when you're doing pen lines and trying to do that, but it was definitely more noticeable here than it was on the Pros. I should also mention, because I tend to forget because it's not a feature I use a lot, but this stylus has tilt support. You can tilt the pen this way, or you can tilt the pen that way. It's really handy if you're trying to vary the look of your paintbrush shapes while you're drawing. And having tilt support in your pen is actually something that's fairly rare in many other third-party devices. In fact, I don't know if there is another 16-inch tablet that has tilt on the pen. Huion has been slowly adding it to some of their devices, but we haven't seen a full rollout yet. The screen itself looks really good, and I really like this 16-inch size. I've said it in other videos, I say it a lot, but I think it's a perfect balance between having a good-sized screen where the interface is big enough and you don't have any problems like selecting layers, or if you have a brush slider or something, it's easy to move around the interface, but it's small enough that you can slide it out of the way when you're not using it. Having a big 22-inch or 24-inch display is really cool. It's luxurious to have that much space, but it's not always practical for every desk setup. The color spectrum listed here is 72% NTSC. The pros are listed in Adobe RGB, and since the screen does have a matte finish, which makes it really nice to draw on, that does manage to dull the color a little bit. A lot of laptops and monitors you get now have a glossy screen because it makes the blacks blacker and the whites whiter. Personally, I would much rather draw on a screen like this, but that really comes down to preference. And I think a lot of illustrators who really need that kind of color accuracy have one monitor calibrated to be super accurate, and then they're using something else to draw on anyway. This is all to say I'm really bad at judging color accuracy. Can you tell me what color you see on this chart? E? I think the colors look fine. If you flip this thing over along the back, you're going to see that there are some legs that pop up. There is a stand that Wacom has on its website available for about $80. It should be available in the store by the end of the month. It attaches to the back of the display. There are 4 holes back there, and I believe that those 4 holes are a VESA standard size, so if you wanted to use another stand, you could do that too. The stand works pretty much the way you'd expect it to. It's got a little release latch, and you can set it at any angle you'd like. Another big difference between this and the Pro versions is that there is no USB-C attachment. In fact, this comes with a combo cable which lets you attach your power and attach an HDMI cable and your USB cable. I recently got a computer that has a USB-C connection, so I like only having to have one cord instead of a separate HDMI and USB cable, but really, it doesn't make that big a difference. The one thing I did miss here that I've seen on other tablets are shortcut keys. Wacom has been phasing these out on some of the Cintiqs for a while now and replacing them with the remote. Now, the larger Cintiq Pros come with this remote. At least my Cintiq Pro 24 came with this remote. The Cintiq 16 does not come with a remote, so out of the box, there's nothing in the box. My script says, rewrite that sentence, Brad. Oops. Just to be clear, there is other stuff in the box, just not the remote. You got the pen, you got the power adapter doodad, you got the combo cable. All right, so I'm looking in the box now. I don't think that it came with any kind of stand or extra nibs with the pen. However, along the side of the tablet, there is a loop, a little place where you can stick your pen, which is really handy. And if you don't like having the loop there, you can just pop it out. Oh look, there are extra nibs. They're tucked away behind this little pull-out tab. How did I miss that? Now, one thing I do want to talk about a little bit are the drivers and the software that you have to install with this. When the Cintiq Pro started rolling out almost 2 years ago, I read online that folks were having problems with drivers. I don't know how widespread those problems were. By the time I started using the Pros and testing them out, I didn't have any problems installing the drivers personally. So it seems like if there were any widespread problems, Wacom has managed to smooth those out and improve those drivers over time. And this device is using the same exact driver that my Cintiq Pro is using. So for me, it was super easy to set up. I do like Wacom's software and how their drivers are set up and how you go in and customize things like where your shortcut keys are or what the pen pressure is, that sort of thing. Every tablet does this, but I think Wacom does it best. So let's talk a little bit about pros and cons. The pros, definitely going with the pen here. You're getting Wacom's best pen ever at their lowest Cintiq price ever. The cons, this is still more expensive than some of the other displays out there, and also you're going to have to pay extra for the stand and the express key remote if you want those things. I'd also throw out there that if you're using an older Cintiq and looking to upgrade, this might not feel like a big step forward like it would if you were jumping to one of the Pros. It's probably going to feel like a sideways move. Overall, my personal opinion is that the quality of the pen is the main thing I'm looking for in any drawing tablet, and since this does that so well, I think it's great that Wacom is releasing a less expensive version of their Cintiq Pros, which have always been very pricey. And since there are so many other brands out there and those brands have been getting better and better over time, it really does make sense for Wacom to scale it down a little bit and release something at a lower price range where you can still get that level of quality where you need it. Anyway, I think it's a pretty good step. It makes sense to kind of tier their product line a little bit and capture some of that market. I'm really curious to see if they do this with some of their other sizes as well, or if this is going to be the only one. Maybe it's an experiment to see what the market wants. Either way, I'm a big fan of it. I think it works well. So if you have any comments or questions, let me know down below in the comments section. That is all I have for today. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in a couple of days.